Hey y'all, this is Sean Browning. I'm gonna talk to you today about and I got a sinus cold, so it might be a little stuffy, but please excuse it. I'm gonna talk to you about the John F. Kennedy assassination. Now, our 35th president, John F. Kennedy, came from a political dynastic family from Massachusetts. The Kennedy family. His father was a very prominent businessman slash politician and a bootlegger, but during the Prohibition era. But John F. Kennedy was a very popular man, a war hero from World War II, the Medal of Honor for his heroics, saving some of his crew after his PT-109 boat was sunk by a Japanese cutter, and he swam for hours until they could get picked up by an American vessel. And part of that problem, he had back issues, different other things. But on November 22nd, 1963, in the height of the Cold War, with tensions all around between Vietnam and our involvement in Vietnam, because deep state wanted us to get involved in Vietnam, and Kennedy was not. He was apprehensive about putting troops boots on ground in Vietnam, but also a couple years after the Cuban Missile Crisis, John F. Kennedy was on his way to Dallas, and in Dallas when he got shot. But he was supposed to make a speech there. November 22nd, 1963, a man by the name of Lee Harvey Oswald, who had known about a decade ago or so, or beforehand, had defected again, and he was a known radical communist who was kicked out of the Marine Corps years prior, but he did have military training as a sniper. So he had a World War II style Italian sniper rifle, and he took 3 shots from the book depository building, 2 of them striking President Kennedy in the head, killing the president, who landed in the First Lady's lap. When she freaked out, the domino effect, she got tackled by a Secret Service Secret Service agent, to protect her. Governor Connolly was struck by one of the bullets in the shoulder, whether it was a ricochet or not. But the president and the governor, who were riding in the same vehicle, were transported to a hospital. The president was pronounced dead about an hour later. Though some believe he was killed instantly. Just took time for them to pronounce he was dead. Now the president, one of the security concerns about known threats on the president's life, the Secret Service wanted him to ride in the limousine that we're accustomed to seeing, but he chose the convertible, the presidential convertible, with the top down, because he wanted to wave at the people, be able to greet the people. Like I said, the president was very popular. Still one of the most popular presidents in our history. And then Lee Harvey Oswald immediately, he went from the book depository building somewhere else in the Dallas area, apparently confronted by a patrolman with the state trooper or whoever near a crosswalk. He shot the patrolman, killing him. And then he went into the movie theater where he was later picked up by authorities. And the next day, when he was brought to be questioned at the Dallas Police Department, Jack Ruby, who got in there with the press, shot Lee Harvey Oswald, who was in between two police officers, cuffed. Now, the question is, Oswald was dead. Ruby got life sentence. And he claimed to be taking the law into his own hands. But the question still remains is, how did Jack Ruby get in there? Was it really just trying to keep it quiet because they didn't want to know who was really behind John F. Kennedy's assassination? And even 62 years later to this day, we don't know whether it was the CIA or whether it was the mob or whoever. Whether it was communist Russia because they were afraid of Kennedy. But we may never really know. But I would like to know what your thoughts are. Because when I was a kid, I read the whole facts around this assassination so many times. I want to understand. The president was beloved by the American people. He was charismatic. He was a strong leader. Though he was a Democrat. Somewhere in there, the deep state was forming, which Eisenhower had warned before he left office. And maybe it was that same deep state Eisenhower warned about. And they didn't like the fact they couldn't control John F. Kennedy because he had a backbone. But, and whether Oswald, if he was really the patsy, what happened? If he was the fall guy, who really shot the president? I know there's different conspiracies on whether the shooter from the grassy knoll actually killed the president, and Oswald was just the cover guy, became the fall guy. But either or, the president was shot, and in this decade that he got shot, there was about 4 different political assassinations. Both John F. Kennedy, his brother 4 years later, Robert F. Kennedy, only a month or two after Martin Luther King was killed, Martin Luther King Jr. And sometime before that, Malcolm X, another civil rights activist, was assassinated. In a very politically violent, turbulent time in our history, the 60s and 70s. And it looks like in this day and age, we're unfortunately not doomed to repeat it. We've already seen 2 failed presidential assassinations on a candidate running for president who was a former president. And we still don't have clear answers on either Thomas Cooks or that guy named Ruth. Well, guys, let me know what you guys think. And there was also the whole thing about the Warren Commission that was summoned in the 70s, or in the late 60s, I should say. And it really was kind of DC cabal theater. It's hard to tell with this government nowadays. But y'all let me know.